I'm just
All
excited
right.
to see what's going on. I'm not gonna lie, when it started fading, Billy, I got a little scared. I thought that the stream was going down. I was like, where are we going? But we're here.
Lights fading. All right.
Some
All
interesting
right.
bands already, Billy. I mean,
Mhm.
we got Belveth, Zyra, Azir. I feel like, I mean, what we're probably gonna be seeing throughout this whole tournament is more target bans. So these are probably
Yes.
really high picked champions, in the just on the OPGGs, just at face value, right?
Yep. And that playing in tournaments kind of protects you from these one tricks. You can clearly see on somebody's OPGG that oh, we've got a one trick Swain, let's ban Swain,
Right.
or we've got a like somebody who's a Kaisa main. Let's ban Kaisa. They won't really be able to do much. And so it's being able to snipe these bans. It's one trick protection essentially. So.
And the first pick, Swain, I mean, we've been hyping it up a lot. And like you were
Mhm.
saying, it's Wazy who is that Swain OTP. And you were saying that Wazy is more of like the Swain support player, but he is playing mid for UNF. So I'm actually really excited to see what this Swain does. My question is, with it being first picked, there's a world where Fruit Ninja can start drafting around the Swain and away from the Swain to play really long range, which is what we're already seeing here. Zoe and
Yeah.
Ash are being picked up to keep that Swain, continue to play these short range characters like Poppy, like Master Yi. My question is for them, like, how are you gonna kill this Ash and Zoe in a team fight, be able to latch on to them?
Yes, and so you've got UNF has that Swain, has that Poppy, has that E. They're going to be heavy engaged, but they've also got a lot of counter engage with that. Their bans as well. We can see that they're pretty much banning anybody who's going to be able to counter their picks at this point.
Yeah, I will say this Poppy pick is going to make Fruit Ninja be able to have like a little bit of a difficult time finding some sort of engaged support. I will say
Yes.
though, having Ash on the table, it does allow you to not have to have an engaged support. Your engage can be an Ash arrow in team fights. You know, if you're grouping up 5v5, that's a great engage tool. That allows you to play something like a Lulu. I was going to say something like a Braum is
Yeah.
also really powerful as they're showing pretty much 3 melees on the board. I would consider Swain a melee, even though he's a mage, with
Yeah.
how short range he has to be. And Ash Braum is just so powerful to play with, especially with a Gwen next to a Braum. I feel like a front to back for Fruit Ninja is going to be devastating.
Now, I haven't seen Opelinim's Mel yet, but I have seen them play other mages, and just the and even though I'm not sure if they're going to be playing that position directly, but just the as we start to get everybody here into their positions, and we're that's a little interesting that UNF with these pocket picks they're going with an off meta bot lane. Fruit Ninja, we've got Ash and Braum. We've got our Freljordian bot lane. That's actually a meta lane right there. But then on UNF we've got that pocket pick of Maokai and Mel, and Mel being able to redirect that Ash arrow right back at her, and pretty much turn the fight. And you've got all these counters here playing against each other. You've got Mel countering Ash, but Braum countering that counter, and so it'll be interesting to see how this game plays out, especially with that top lane. It looks like we've got a Darius versus Poppy. Couch. Oh, Couch is a Poppy one trick if I've ever seen one. I played against him once. He was only in the jungle that time. Just even playing Evelyn like I was, a good pick into Poppy if done right, but he knew his off meta position that it was hard for me to really play around it. And so, you know, a lot of these position on poke to be able to stay out of the range of Swain, and Gwen in the jungle is going to be a interesting pick to see how that one does. I haven't really seen Gwen in the jungle very much. I've seen her mostly in
that's
top lane
something
or
that I
mid
was
lane.
really excited to see is this Gwen pick because of her most recent like mini rework almost. The way that they've changed her a couple patches ago made her really strong in the top lane and jungle. They've since kind of toned down. It was the same patch as the Nefiri patch, and I think all the praise and excitement was all about Nefiri because that's a champion we haven't seen. But Gwen has been a staple pick for so long for a lot of teams. And they nerfed her or tuned her down a little bit in the top lane because she was like 56% win rate in top and jungle on that patch. But then they also kind of buffed her jungle a little bit. So she's still been a staple jungler. And that's something that for me, I'm actually worried about for UNF is how are they going to deal with this Gwen? Because Gwen loves to be in the middle of like 4 people, sit in your shroud, and just eat up all the melees. And
Yeah.
UNT, looking at their team, like that's a lot of food for Gwen to just snip down. The Maokai is
Yeah.
going to be eating, like just chopped down like a tree. He is a tree. Swain's not going to have anything to do for Gwen. Like they don't have tools to deal with her.
Yeah.
And if they use everything on Gwen, then you have Darius ghosting at you and doing the exact same thing that Gwen does. Like, Gwen and Darius are kind of the same champions of the front to back, like just chopping down bruisers and tanks. Just one's AP and one's AD. So UNF
Yeah.
will have to decide, do I do Tabbies, but then I'm going to get eaten up by Gwen? Do I do Mercs? Well, then I'm going to be eaten up by Ashe and Darius.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big question for them.
And and they've got a good range on their lineup. They've got Poppy, and they've got Swain. They've got a good lineup there. A lot of heavy engage from UNF. But then on the other side, we have a solid front line and a solid back line to be able to win just about any team fight. And so it'll be very interesting to see how those team fights play out here in this game as we start to find out just how these picks are going to work. And so we see a lot more of the meta picks from Fruit Ninja, of course, a lot of those filling those check boxes. And looks like we've got a little bit more of a delay before we join up in game and get that up. But we've got.
Heard.
All right, the voices are telling us that there's a few technical difficulties going on, and so, but those pocket picks from UNF are those pocket picks from UNF are going to be are going to possibly come into play here. We had a player disconnect in that with those technical difficulties, so we're working to get them back in the game so we can get started here on the second game of our April 2025 PLC.
Yeah, thinking about the comp here as well as we're waiting for that pause and that reconnect to happen. We love League of Legends, $billion company.
Rito,
Client
please.
is very workable. But as we wait for that reload to happen, something that I kind of am going to contest you on a little bit is you're saying the engage of Blue Side's comp is actually really strong. I kind of disagree with you a little bit. I think that they have a good engage on their front line of, being able to pin someone to the wall with Poppy. The Maokai ult is going to be a really strong ult to be able to use for the team fight and start it off. But something that you mentioned is Red Side has a really strong front line to be able to just counter that, right? A Braum shield to eat up the Maokai ult. I'm sure Darius, Gwen, and Braum are all very happy to eat a Poppy E because that means that they are in range of somebody to start eating up, right?
Yeah.
Ashe and Zoe my only idea is their only AD threat of for UNF is this Master Yi pick. If he can start really starting to go and he can get a reset on one of those melees, and as the fight breaks out and gets really messy and sloppy, then he can flip it onto an Ashe or Zoe. I feel like that's kind of the angle where they can win. So that's where my eye is going to be as well, is how is this Master Yi doing in terms of farm and kills? Is he going to be strong enough to be able to flip the fight? And how does Red Team start to push that Master Yi away from the backline of Ashe and Zoe?
Yeah, they've got Fruit Ninja has this massive front line that UNF is going to have to chew through to be able to get to the back line. So, while they have all these engaged tools, it's a matter of, do they have the follow through, and are they going to be able to sustain that fight more than just an initial burst?
Yeah. In which I am going to say that I think Red side, I think Fruit Ninja's team has a lot more consistent damage to be able to play these fights longer. I mean, Blue side's damage is a Mel, a Swain, a Master Yi. I just don't think that those are consistent enough damage sources to be able to eat through a Darius and a Gwen and a Braum, and then be able to turn the fight to those AD carry and Zoe.
Yeah.
Sure, Zoe doesn't have that consistent of a damage as compared to something like a Swain, but Ashe, I mean, and obviously I'm biased because, Ruler is still a professional player, and so I see like these crazy Korean Ashes just do so much damage, but the Ashe is going to have a lot easier of a time to hit than this Mel will.
All right, looks like we are finally in game here as we see all five he getting just mugged in the early game, instantly deleted. I remember that happening to me on stream last month as Galio. So just that early disadvantage there, getting vision on the jungle and knowing where he's going to be is going to be a huge disadvantage for that. So he's going to have a very difficult time getting ahead here with that, and because he's going to need to be making these plays here, otherwise it's probably not going to turn out well for their team.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think our graphic is showing the kill and who got the kill, which is something that I'm very curious about, because that's going to change a lot of this game, right? Is who got that opening gold, who got that early gold, and who's going to start to be able to play off of it. Because I think, Fruit Ninjas, all of if anyone on their team gets low lanes like this, especially this bot lane, it's going to be unplayable. The stun already going through from the contestant from. And this Mel and Maokai are not going to be able to touch a wave for a while, as Ashe and Braum's level 1 is just crazy.
Yes, it's so much stronger. And Mel doesn't hit her power spike until level 2, maybe level 3. And by then, Ashe has so much more utility with Braum to back her up that it's going to be difficult to really get.
I mean, Ashe is notorious as one of the best level 1 AD carries in the game, just due to her passive, and her range is just absolutely insane. And, your Maokai, your engage is very short range, very limited. I mean, you W onto somebody, and then that's all you've got. Then you Q and walk away if you've got Phase Rush, or you just pray that you stay alive. And that's exactly what Braum and Ashe want you to do. I don't think that Ashe is going to let this Maokai ever be in range of her. And so it's... And I don't think Mel Q can really poke Ashe on any minions either. So unless Master Yi gets involved, which isn't really what that champion wants to do early on, I feel like this bot lane is going to start getting a lot of leads as they start to potentially proc the concussive blows again, and that Mel is 1 HP already.
Yeah, 250-ish hit points, and it just the range on that Ashe being able to outrange Mel in this early game is a huge difference. Now looks like we've got Darius keeping vision on Master Yi in the jungle, giving his team an idea of what's going down and how it's going to go down. So, these objective priorities with that jungle game is going to be interesting to see how they play that.
Yeah, and the 2v2, or Gwen now knowing, and Darius as well, knowing that the jungle paths are matched, but Gwen is just so much faster on this clear. And so she's going to get to Crab before Master Yi has even finished his full clear. and might even secure the double scuttle, as Zoe does have a lot of push in the mid lane, and you know, as we're seeing on the screen, blue side's bot lane cannot touch the wave at all, so red will always be able to get the crab, but that's a Zoe solo bolo in the mid lane against the Swain.
Yeah, and so you know, that range is going to make a huge difference this game. Just being able to have the extra range on those champions, because there's so much melee or short range on UNF's side. The range from Fruit Ninja is going to make that difference. You know, you're going to have to chew through these, you know, hard peels to be able to get to any of that range to do anything against it, and you know, Fruit Ninja is going to want to push all of their gold onto those ranged carries, onto that mid lane and bot lane carry.
Yeah, I mean, Fruit Ninja's mid laner now pairs with the Lost Chapter boots at 4 minutes. I mean, this mid lane is going to just be Armageddon at this point. I mean, Swain's not going to be able to deal with the Zoe at all unless he pairs missteps and probably gets hit by a Swain E. I think that's the only way that anything's going to happen, but even then, it's just a Ruby Crystal of Swain. Swain needs levels, wants time to be able to get damage going, and wants to be ahead of the curve. He's not like a burst champ like he used to be pre-rework, so the Zoe's going to be super chilling. And that's a big worry if you're a UNF fan, because, again, UNF doesn't really have an engage tool to kill Zoe.
Yeah, they've got a lot of engaged tools, but they're mostly ineffective at this point in the game. And especially with Zoe having gotten that first blood, we do have confirmation that she was the one that got that kill, puts her so much further ahead of everyone. You know, we can already see that she's got a 100 gold bounty, being ahead on CS, being ahead on kills, and just having that gold lead, putting her team well in the black on that gold lead. And
heavy trade top though. The Ghost is popped from Prideful. Couch just eats the Q from the Darius, and that is going to be a massive kill swing for Fruit Ninjas as well. I mean, all of the win cons for Fruit Ninjas are just going as expected.
Yes, and you know and that play that we just saw with Mel against Braum, it's not as effective as, or it's actually a little more effective in my opinion.
Well, it's moving all in mid here, though. This is what we were talking about, that Swain, if he can get an E going, then he can maybe run down Pears, but Pears just steals the Ghost away from Wazy, and Wazy doesn't have enough damage to make this go through. The Sleepy Bubble is going to make Pears do a lot more damage, but Brian Mosey is here and gets the shutdown to Zoe. Wazy living with slightly above execute damage for Pears, and that's going to be a decently good gold swing from Fruit Ninjas, but meanwhile, bot lane is still zoning this Mel away from any XP, any gold. Already a 30 CS lead, but Gwen is looking for Wazy's blood. The flash from Wazy, but last round Bender is going to predict the flash and get a great kill on that last ulti proc, and now their eyes are turning to Dragon, forcing Brian Moser, previously the executor of Pears, to flash over the wall away from the Dragon. And, I mean, hey, last round Bender is now just going to say thank you for the leash and all chat and take the Ocean Dragon.
And, you know, you have to make sure you've got priority in your lanes before you take these objectives, otherwise things like this happen. You know, Wazy being as low as he was, even though his lane opponent had recently been killed, respawn timers at 7 minutes in are rather low, and so Zoe's going to get back to lane quickly. Gwen's going to be right there in the jungle to be able to put pressure there. You may have gotten the kill mid lane, but you don't have priority still. And so making sure you have priority before you start taking these jungle objectives is going to be vital for the gameplay. And so we're starting to see all these win conditions just going out the window as mistakes are being made one by one.
Fruit Ninjas there attempting to threaten a dive, but they did spot Brian Mosey there on the Krux. Something that I'm going to start looking at as well and pointing out is the fact that, you know, jungle lead is just bleeding. Brian Mosey has been dropping a couple of his camps to be able to help his teammates, but now he's going to be down about 20, 25, like almost a full clear against this Gwen, which is not really something you want to do. I mean, as Master Yi, you want to stay up on your levels and your items, as that's what your champion likes to do, but also on the other side, you're giving Gwen a really large lead. you know, it's just like a double-edged sword of full pain. But speaking of pain, Paris is going to deal a little bit of pain to Wazy, but it's all going to be healed up as that Catalyst of Aeons allows him to just full trade into Paris' HP bar and get another solo bolo.
So we're going to start seeing Swain starting to pick up here. We can see that Swain one trick actually coming into play here against that Zoe, and you know, just being able to, as long as Swain is able to stay close to Zoe, Zoe's not going to be able to get away. And like, Zoe doesn't have the disengage tools in her kit. You know, if Swain doesn't use Ghost, Zoe's not going to be able to Ghost as well to get away from that. So just keep Zoe close. As long as he can land those skill shots to keep her close, he's going to be able to get ahead, giving UNF2 a potential win condition with that Swain. If they can get Swain to carry there, then it can be a potential game changer.
Yeah, I think if UNF is able to get Swain to a point where he can tank Darius and Gwen, and be able to give their team a decent amount of uptime of DPS for Master Yi and even Swain's own damage, but Mel as well, that could be an avenue for them. But again, it's Darius and Gwen that are already getting a pretty big lead, and Swain is not really good into those champions. He is good into the Zoe so far, though, as it seems that he is developing that lead again, like you're saying, and I don't think Paris is going to be able to get items here soon that's going to allow him to deal damage against a full Rod of Ages. Speaking of caught out, Couch is going to be running for his life in the topside jungle, but Secret Verdict is going to push him away. Paris, though, is assisting with their trouble bubble, landing, finding the Q as well. A pullback from Prideful is going to secure the death, and Paris is going to collect that plus 300 as their eyes turn to the Void Grubs.
Yeah, and you know, in the bot lane a little bit ago, we saw that Ashe was just keeping Mel under turret. You know, Mel not having the range to compete with that, and so Ashe killing Mel solo right there. It's going to start to feel bad. Mel doesn't have the sustain to be able to compete with Ashe in this. You know, she can reflect an Ashe ult. But it's hard to reflect all of the sustain that Ashe brings. With Fruit Ninja taking those grubs, Ashe is going to have a lot more pushing power in the bot lane. Darius is going to have a lot more in the top lane. They've got that team fight advantage right now. But that honestly, that would have been a good engage for Poppy against Darius there, with Darius being so low on mana as he was.
A little trade in the mid lane as Wazy is showing that he has a higher level than Pears. But Pears can simply walk away. Again, this is a Rod of Ages Swain. He doesn't, he did have ult, but choosing not to use it. Probably saving it for this dragon that is going to be spawning here in about 40 seconds. Something I wanted to point out is Fruit Ninjas does have both objectives: 3 grubs,
yes,
or excuse me, 5 grubs, and a dragon, as the second dragon is spawning. And something that we haven't really talked about is the side lane prowess that Fruit Ninjas have. I don't think that anyone on UNF can really deal with a side lane Darius. If this guy is just left alone on an island, Couch is not going to be able to solo bowl him, nor is Wazius. He's just going to fully all in Couch. Couch is going to push him back into himself, into the wave, and Prideful is going to give that Demacian Guillotine to the Poppy's skull, making him get another kill and a lot of plate gold for himself.
So, the Noxian Guillotine.
My bad.
So, the Demacian Guillotine is Garrett. But the Noxian Guillotine from Darius there, but putting pressure on the dragon here. We also saw earlier that they were keeping pressure onto Yi, keep Master Yi from getting ahead. No problem.
Well, that pressure is going to be put on Fruit Ninjas immediately as Yi and Wazy are initiating a fight, forcing Pears to splash out. But we have to watch Gwen here. Has the ult going. Didn't allow Bananas to pop it back, but speaking of popping, couldn't pop. Is going to be finding that 1v1 against Mel. Gwen is going to be taken down, but the Highlander of Master Yi is already worn out. Wazy is out of the ult as well. This is exactly what Fruit Ninjas need, is this stalled out team fight, but I don't think that they are very comfortable about extending this fight. Braum might find the concussive blows pop onto Brian Moser, but he is going to dodge it with that Alpha Strike onto the crab, secure the crab. But at the end of the day, Fruit Ninja's got a couple traded kills, but also got the dragon, which is absolutely massive.
Yes. While they lost Gwen in that fight to Swain, but you know, giving a little bit more of that gold onto Swain, but they had objectives. They got gold funneled onto Ashe. They got gold funneled onto Darius. They're for Fruit Ninja, that's a worth play to lose Gwen, feed the Swain a little bit, but we can keep Swain off if we got range from Ashe. Ashe can stay out of Swain's range all day and not have to worry about him at all.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a glimpse of the best case scenario for UNF's team fight there, as Ashe wasn't a part of the main pinch. Ashe was completely disconnected, found a 1v1 kill on Mel, but if Ashe was connected with Last Lounbender and Bananas, I think that could have been an easy wipe, killing the E and the Swain. Speaking of killing, though, Prideful is going to find another chunk on the couch, but Keeper's Verdict is going to push him away again. Black Cleaver on Darius, though, is making him quite the threat and the terror of the top side.
Oh, yes. It's hard to play a tank into somebody like Darius, where he builds a Black Cleaver and then he just stacks it up and you bleed to death. And so, one of the things about Darius is his damage is very sneaky. He doesn't do it all at once, except with his ultimate. But it's his passive that is going to be doing all that damage, especially if you get the Black Cleaver in there, you get all those stacks.
And those are the stacks that are going to be finding the execute on the couch.
Yes, and so it's those executes that, looks like we got Ashe coming here on Swain.
Speaking of execute, we're going to be looking for Lazy here, but this is a pretty tanky Swain. Merc Treads and the Roa going to make Ashe have to have a lot of uptime as he keeps healing through it all, but eventually that Swain does die, putting Ashe onto a killing spree and allowing Zoe to put some more pressure on that mid tower.
Yeah, Braum doing a very good job at peeling Swain off of that Ashe. If Braum can distract him more and more, he's going to be able to take that damage. Ashe, not quite so much. Zoe, not so much. But if he's doing his job as the front line and keeping Swain off of the backline can easily dispatch Swain without problem.
Well, speaking of that Braum, he's going to be pushing concussive blows onto the Mel here. The deflect is going to only deflect one of the Ranger's focus autos, but a couple other arrows are going to hit the back of her head and take her down. And on the flip side, they're going to be getting Grift Herald. They're just winning both sides of the map and a mid tower. There's nothing that UNF can do.
It's certainly looking like more of a fight than we saw last game, though. Last game it was 10-0 before we saw anything happen. And so seeing UNF putting up a lot more of a fight is certainly refreshing.
Oh, that is a big bubble on the couch. It allows Darius to get the pull, which it does with the help of the Ghost. This guy might just be ran down as Darius and Zoe continue to chase. It's a decently tanky Poppy with the Thornmill beating down there. So they don't have enough damage there, but they can continue to put some pressure down and force UNF to make a mistake.
And being able to just force Poppy out of lane allows them to put pressure onto that tower, allows them to get more of that objective, push that side lane in further. And they were able to push Mel off of that lane as well.
Oh man. You really hate to see that one
flash
happen.
auto, just like, oh, I missed the queue, but I know where you are now, so I'm just gonna flash auto before you can go back. There's a certain point in which, if you're close enough, you might as well just walk back, especially if there's threats even somewhat close nearby.
Well, and there aren't any threats from UNF so far, as Fruit Ninjas are discovering there's a lot of people towards the bot side. It's going to be Last Lounbender pushing the Herald into the bottom tier 2, but it's going to cause a fight to happen. A lot of damage on the Gwen, but look at the Ashe uptime, doing so much damage to the Maokai. Eventually they're going to take down Gwen, but that's the Master Yi reset that I was talking about in Champ Select, forcing the Ashe flash away, but here comes trouble as Prideful is arriving, as well as Pears. Nox and Guillotine is going to be finding that Master Yi, and here comes the resets from Darius, finding Couch once again. In ways he's going to be the next target, but he is going to be taking down the Ashe at the same time. All that true damage from Prideful is going to be huge. The Mel ulti is not enough to take down Prideful, and it's allowing Zoe to flip the fight again. Prideful staying alive with his lead and going to be finding a big ace for Fruit Ninjas.
you know, for how far behind UNF is, I would say that there was a good fight. You know, they put up certainly a good fight for how far behind they are. You know, get a little bit more gold on their team, but you want to do it without sacrificing so much. You know, they sacrificed so much to still lose that tower, and you know, sometimes you need to know when to disengage off of that fight, when it's no longer worth it to stay in there, even though you're going to be losing that objective. You're going to be losing, you know, 1 or 2 people to die in that fight. You need to know when to disengage.
Yeah. Take the wins as they come. I mean, that's something that I saw is they got the Gwen kill and they just kept going. You know, you get excited, you're like, okay, we're winning this fight, we got a kill, we can keep going, but the TP is going down, the rotations from Prideful. Those are the 2 players that really have the biggest lead. Sure, Gwen has been slowly becoming stronger, but this comp of Fruit Ninjas have layers. Every single champion on their team can do a lot of damage in these team fights, so
yes,
especially as Prideful, who now has second item. I believe Zoe's probably going to be recalling for her second item as well. This is a point in the time where Fruit Ninjas are going to be quite scary, as Otacon is going to be spawning at this 20-minute mark.
Yeah, and while we do have a Thornmail on Poppy, it's only going to do so much against an Ashe. You know, Thornmail is effective at, you know, it's more effective at reducing healing than dealing damage back to an AD carry. So I wouldn't agree with the Thornmail pick on Poppy here. There'd probably be better items for that, for being able to, you know, tank rather than reducing healing, which is what Thornmail's meant to do. It's supposed to reduce healing against champions like Warwick or against Xinjiao, who gets that 3rd hit heal on his passive. And so it's meant for more of those situations rather than just getting armor.
Yeah, I think sitting on the Bramble Vest for the healing of Darius and Gwen, which is pretty high, is pretty smart. But yeah, like you said, the first item Thornmail, it's not going to allow her to be tanking. She was shredded like paper in that previous fight. But speaking about shredded, the Otacon is going to be fully shredded by Fruit Ninja. Last time Bender is pretty low from that Otacon, but he's going to be able to play this front to back, that healing that we were talking about, the lock going through, nullifying all of the Master Yi damage. But here comes Lazy doing a lot of damage, but can he get any kill? No, he can't. It's only 50. Bananas being sent home with the Otacon buff, and Pairs flashing forward, executing Mel. Another ace back-to-back from Fruit Ninjas, and that is going to be the game fully unlocked for this red team.
It's certainly very difficult to come back from this. I have seen it happen, but it is extremely difficult to do so. You know, Fruit Ninja knows that if they want to win these team fights, focus Wazy, focus that Swain, because he's their main source of damage. You know, Master Yi is easy to take care of. He's easy to dispatch. You just get him between alpha strikes and he's paper. And, you know, Master Yi, all he does is damage. Swain, he's a little bit tanky. He's a little bit of an AP bruiser. But if you're able to, you know, focus on that Swain because he's the main source of damage, then it's going to give your team that advantage there.
Yeah, I mean, Fruit Ninja's comp is fully just sit back and just play whoever's in front of you. Just kill whoever's, like, right directly in front of you. And so far, it is just Master Yi and Swain. I mean, they have Couch and Dark Chocolate to support, but, like you were saying, they don't really have any damage to kill anything. The damage from Fruit Ninjas is just... I mean, their comp allows them to just play these fights so easily. And now that they have every single Tier 1 and Tier 2 tower down from the Otacon and just all of these team fight wins, this Master Yi is fully homeless, having no camp to be able to play anymore. It's only the waves that are being pushed from Fruit Ninjas that he can accept. And once this Baron happens, where Fruit Ninjas can just take the Baron and make sure that they're not getting engaged on by a Maokai, they're just going to be able to win the game, get triple inhib, and slowly bleed them out.
Yeah, and we can see here why meta is meta. You know, pocket picks work if you've got like one of them that's off meta. But when your whole team is off meta and built around, you know, 1 or 2 tools, it's not going to be as effective as a team that plays into the meta. They play into all those tools and uses those tools.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the cohesion is not that great, but also at the end of the day, everyone just won on Fruit Ninjas. Everyone has a lead. It's just kind of the game was won in Champ Select, but also won in lane phase. They haven't really had any sort of avenue to play through other than Lazy. But I mean, my God, Pears one-shotting the Master Yi. The deflect of the Ashe arrow is going to make Pears be a little slow despite the Prideful and Last Loud Bender. They're just enough to be able to clear everyone out. The Keeper's Verdict is going to push the Darius away, and an Exhaust is going to slow down Gwen a bit, but here comes the cavalry of the Ashe and Zoe. Couches can be papered to them, and Wazy is still alive, but not enough damage to do anything as they get snipped away. Double kill for Last Loud Bender. A flash forward into an Exhaust to, you know, miss the bubble and force a flash away. So that's 4 members. Only the support Maokai left alive. That's going to allow Fruit Ninjas to be able to get this bot inhibitor, and probably the mid inhibitor, and maybe even play for a win here.
They might be able to play for win. Death timers are starting to get long here at 24 minutes in, and you know that Kraken Slayer on Ashe is certainly doing its job. We can see that she just melted, absolutely melted Swain, and you know, as Gwen's just going solo for a Elder Dragon here, or not Elder Dragon, but Cloud Soul.
Yeah.
So you know, Cloud and Elder almost look the same, but that was Cloud Soul going over to Fruit Ninjas as you know Gwen just had time to be able to solo it without any pressure.
She's such a huge soul for as well as, you know, the thing that Master Yi hates and Swain hates is people that just kind of walk away from them, right? We've been talking about how UNF is so short range, and now Fruit Ninjas can just press their ult buttons and sprint at them. This Gwen is going to be going ult and just running through them. There's not really a lot that UNF is going to be able to do. And I also like their call of let's just get triple inhibitor and not take any of the towers, as on this patch and with the Noxian map, Nexus towers do respawn, and so something that we've all been discovering is it's really not worth it to risk an end, because, you know, if you can't end, then the towers just respawn, and all of that was over. Might as well just make the safe plays, such as this triple inhibitor, and turn to a Baron and have great tempo.
And honestly, it almost looks like Fruit Ninja's just putting on a show for us here at this point. You know, they probably easily could have ended, and they've got super minions pushing in, double supers from all lanes pushing in, you know, keeping UNF confined to their base. If not, they get caught out and they're one man down for trying to keep their base safe.
Yeah, I mean, we saw UNF try to contest that Baron there, but it just, you can't. You have the triple inhibitor, you have to clear the waves, and now it's only a matter of time. The Zoe poke is really going to hurt, especially right behind minions. They have to make a fight happen, but it's a 4v5. Wazy finds some damage onto Pop, and Pop might actually be able to get the one-shot, the flash forward, but the Mel execute's going to be huge. That's a shutdown. Brian Mosey trying to find Prideful, but the damage is not enough. Meanwhile, Pears is just ending the game with the Gwen. I mean, I wanted a fight from Fruit Ninjas, but the mid and junglers say, no sir, we're just going to end the game and advance into the 3rd round 2-0.